is ridiculous. And Joe Budden should be really ashamed of himself. DJ Erica. So let's get to talking about the Joe Budden podcast and this whole fiasco going on with Joe Budden going on air, firing Rory, firing Mal, okay, in a rant, okay. In that podcast he took down because he knew it was a rant. Then, okay, after that, Rory and Mal firing back with a 1-hour podcast exposing Joe Budden with a long list of allegations when it comes to being basically underpaid and basically screwed over by Joe Budden. To Joe Budden going back on IG Live to reiterate the things that he was saying and breaking down all of the logistics and the finances in regards to where the money that was missing has gone. And also, we're going to talk about the fact that after he put this out, now we have more people who used to work at the Joe Budden Network coming out. One in particular, Olivia Dope. DJ Olivia Dope used to work on Joe Budden's podcast network, okay, on the show See the Thing Is, okay. She came out basically with a list of sexual harassment allegations in the workplace, alleging that Joe Budden basically made her uncomfortable. He basically tried to talk to her inappropriate. He hugged her and touched her inappropriate. And a lot of this stuff is on film on an episode of her podcast. Now, I did screen record it. I do have a couple of screenshots and stuff like that. But I'm really not going to be trying to play the clips, but I'm just going to elaborate what happened. If you guys want to see more, go to my YouTube channel. I am DJ Erica. I am DJ Erica for my people that's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and you'll be able to see exactly what I'm talking about because I have videos of everything that I'm discussing today, in smaller and shorter videos, okay? Because it's just like, this whole situation is like the gift that keeps on giving. It's like every 2 seconds there's more and more drama surrounding Joe Budden. And honestly, I just feel like literally Joe Budden empire is crumbling right beneath him. And I don't know if it's the arrogance. I don't know what type of karma is going on right now. But it seems as if everybody that used to be a supporter or used to work with Joe Budden is basically like kind of like turning their back on him. Okay, now let's just talk about the rant. Okay, so Joe Budden decided he wanted to go on his podcast. Now, mind you, let's go a little further back to over 2 weeks ago. Now, 2 to 3 weeks ago, okay, Rory and Mal just abruptly leaves the podcast. Everyone's wondering, where is Rory? Where's Mal? We haven't seen them in a while. Joe Budden basically was hosting a show, ended up bringing in co-hosts, brought in a co-host, Ice and Ish, everything else. Everyone's like, yo, what is this about? This is a bunch of effery. Long story short, okay, another week's passed. All of a sudden, we have Rory and Mal back. They go on air, they hash it out on air. What we seem to look like them hashing it out on air and getting everything right. Only for them to come back a week later in next episode, and Mal is just sitting in the high chair looking like disgruntled, like literally a disgruntled employee / friend who is just fed up with the antics of Joe Budden. Rory looked like, man, I just want this to work. Man, I just want this to work. Man, I just want this to work. He just looked anxious. And I'm just sitting here looking like, what in the F has happened? What is really going on? Like, what is going on behind the scenes that we don't know about? Because the chemistry has been completely in the dumpster for a while now. So basically, after this whole thing, the last episode where Mal is looking like F off to Joe Budden. Joe Budden announces that he's going on a vacation in Los Angeles, telling everybody that he's going on vacation in Los Angeles to kick back, whatever. Then Joe Budden comes back, no Rory, no Mal, and he goes on the rant announcing that he's no longer going to have them a part of his show. Okay. Along with that, the main reason is because Rory and Mal wanted the accounting for the income of the Joe Budden podcast. They wanted to know what money they was bringing, put in or brought in from their work or the podcast in general, so they can make sure that they made their percentage of what they were supposed to make from the podcast. But from the looks of it, it looks as if Joe Budden may have something to hide. It's just weird because this is a dumb reason to literally destroy years worth of friendship. Along with that, basically destroy one of the best podcasts that the Urban Network and the Urban World has seen ever. Like, literally. It's embarrassing for Joe Budden. I think it's embarrassing for his entire brand, because it makes it seem as if it's just, he just seems to be, you know, terrible when it comes to leadership. And I feel like he destroys everything that he does. And it's embarrassing to watch him do that. Okay. Now, when I first watched the footage, you know, Joe Budden made it seem as if like, oh my God, Mal and them was like, he wouldn't just directly say it is. I feel like, you know, Joe Budden was trying to teeter-totter with that podcast he put out. He wouldn't just be direct and be like, okay, they wanted an accountant for the money, and, you know, I ain't feel like giving it to them. So that's why, no, he was going around in circles trying to throw stuff on, say, oh, I wanted to fire Rory, but Mal, how you going to come for the defense of Rory when it's really between me and Rory and this, and this? And, you know, I just feel like it was wrong also, the fact that he fired them on their day off. You ain't even let these dudes come in. You ain't talk to them man to man. You ain't do nothing. You decided to just, and this, I mean, it's your podcast. You can do as you want, but it just don't look good when you gonna sit here and talk crap about people that literally helped you build the Joe Budden podcast. I'm not gonna say they helped build Joe Budden, because we know Joe Budden's been a brand for over 20 years, but the Joe Budden podcast has been on air for 7 years. And although they came in at episode 77, they built it. And you guys almost had damn near 400 and something episodes, okay, together on this podcast over 7 years. So they have contributed, you know what I mean? And it's just messed up that this is how all of this is ending, and there's literally no get back from this situation, you know what I mean? So, you know, after I seen it, I was like, dang, Rory and Mal, what was they doing? Was they stealing money from Joe Budden? That's how it made me feel when I was listening to Joe Budden on air the day that he fired them. He was making it seem like they stole money from him. And so it was like reaching in his pockets and taking his money. So I'm sitting here thinking like, oh, what the hell? What, you know, were these dudes stealing? Like, what was going on? You know what I mean? Because it just all happened so fast. I mean, 1 minute. And you know the craziest thing is I went on live literally the week that he went on vacation. I said, y'all, the Joe Budden podcast is about to be no more. If you guys want to see that video, that's on my channel. Y'all can see I made a prediction that the Joe Budden podcast was not going to be anymore because of the behaviors and the antics of Joe Budden and all of the other stuff and the energy that Mal was giving. Like, Mal was giving like, dude, I am done. I'm about to give my contractual obligations, barely even that, and I'm out of this bitch, okay? So it's like, okay, that's the type of energy you're giving, okay? Joe Budden fires them, or whatever you want to call it. They decide they want to come back and do their own podcast, basically answering all the questions the fans have, trying to understand why the Joe Budden podcast isn't anymore. And according to Mal and Rory, basically it's all Joe Budden's fault. Basically, they're alleging that the lawyers, they didn't say specifically Joe Budden, but Joe Budden lawyers may be doing allegedly some dirty business and was hiding the bookings and all of the accounting and information, so much so that they mismanaged and miscounted $500,000. Like, how do you mismanage and miscount $500,000 that's brought in from the podcast? Now, for most of you guys that don't understand, they say, okay, that they're not employees, but they're partners. So you know what I mean? So that means that they take a small percentage from whatever they bring to the table to the podcast. So like if they brought a sponsor in or something like that and Joe Budden is okay with it, they will probably get more of a higher portion because they brought money into the podcast or whatever the situation. Because they don't do ads. Like they do deals with people. Like they did deals with Tidal, Spotify, Cash App, and Patreon. They don't ever put ads on it. And this is something that Joe Budden always felt like he needed to brag about. Now me personally, if that works for him, you know, go ahead and do it, dude. But me personally, I also like money as well. So I feel like they were complaining about them not having the money accounted for. But I really feel like this is down to finances. Now, Mal could sit here and say it's about friendship. And it may be about friendship for him. But for y'all to just completely quit y'all's show over money, that don't sound like friendship to me. You know what I mean? It just sounds like... It just sounds like they got tired of being financially taken advantage of. That's what I took away from that whole hour of them talking. Now, if you guys want to actually see the whole thing, it is on my YouTube channel. I am DJ Jerica. You guys can see that whole hour. Because I paid for it, okay? I paid for it and downloaded it to my computer. And I said, let me go ahead and share this to my viewers so we can have something to talk about. Because I want y'all to watch it, and then I want y'all to come back and give me y'all opinion on what Rory and Mal said. But anyway, so basically what Rory was basically saying is that Joe Budden team, which is his lawyers and accountants, wouldn't run the numbers by them for money that was missing for the most part. Along with that, he goes way back to when he first started on the Joe Budden podcast and how he was the first person to upload the podcast on his SoundCloud a couple of episodes in. Along with that, he said he was like one of the first people to bring a deal to Joe Budden in regards to a deal with Tidal and Jay-Z and everything else. And he basically was saying how Joe Budden basically, you know, yelled at him, cursed him out about bringing people in and starting business deals on his behalf without him being present. And they just go through the entire spiel of everything that has happened from then all the way until now, and where basically the final straw was laid. And to me, the final straw was that $400,000 that was missing, that was never accounted for by their accounting team. And you know, on top of everything else in regards to the Spotify deal, they said that they didn't make much money from the Spotify deal. They got paid, but it wasn't that much. Along with that, Patreon. I feel like Patreon was also a big factor in the fact that these dudes just up and left as well. Is because Joe Budden literally did a Patreon deal for himself, and he didn't include them in part of the deal. Okay? Like, I mean, I get it. You as Joe Budden, a brand, you know, you've been around for a long time. So you are entitled to getting your own endorsement deals and stuff like that. But if it's a Joe Budden podcast and they're supposed to be partners for that podcast, I feel like Joe Budden is supposed to include them in everything. You know what I mean? He could have, you know, with him being added to what I think it's called the I don't know what department he got put on, but a Patreon. But the deal that he had, he could have negotiated something a little better that so the people from his team would still be eating. You know what I'm saying? But it didn't work that way. And for that reason, you know, now Rory and Mal are sitting here with egg on their face. Now, let me elaborate further. Okay? I feel that no one should really do business with somebody who they consider a close friend. I feel like it's stupid for anybody to mix business with pleasure. Okay, and I get that these guys wanted to do this podcast because they felt like it was fun. They felt like it was something that they could do, this, and this. But if for that much, just do it for free then. Honestly. And I'm not saying that they should work for free, but if you can't focus on getting your money in order and focus on making sure that you're getting paid while working with somebody that you consider a friend, then I don't think it'd be smart to do business. You know what I'm saying? Because clearly you can't do one without the other. You can't, you know what I'm saying, have your cake and eat it too. You can't find balance in the middle of all of this. And Mal had made a lot of good points. Like, yo, I don't want to take my friends to court, but you got to understand the things that Joe Budden was saying to you, Mal, that lets you know that he didn't view you much as a friend, okay? He told you to audit him. That right there was your signal, man, that this dude ain't your friend. This is a business relationship. And I feel like Mal got that mixed up too. It's like he gotta, it's like, dude, like, come on now. Like, a lot of the stuff that Joe Budden has said was literally basically telling them what it was, but they just wouldn't accept what it was. Like, and that doesn't make Joe Budden any less of a scumbag, but that's just what it was. You get what I'm saying? So I feel like with the whole Joe Budden podcast situation, I feel like, you know, Joe Budden is going to get his karma for doing these people wrong, allegedly. If he really did these people wrong, it was really trying to hide money from them, the repercussions is his network may start crumbling, okay? They may continue to crumble. Now, Joe Budden did go on IG basically saying that he's tired of all the mess and the drama, and he did say that he will not sue them. Now, in the first rant that he did on his podcast, he basically was like, I'm going to sue Rory for starting his own podcast, but I guess he had a change of heart and was like, no, I'm not going to sue them. I was just ranting in my feelings and stuff like that. So I guess he's not going to sue, which I'm glad he's not, because that would be petty as hell to try to sue somebody because they feel like, okay, working with you might not be the best thing. On top of that, you fired them on their day off, and on top of that, allegedly, you won't give them the numbers that's needed for them to be properly compensated. Come on now, Joe Budden. That's just messed up. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's so hard. It's a conflicting situation, because on a business end, I can understand Joe Budden wanting to make sure that he makes the highest profit, having a capitalist mindset. But on the other end, if we're going to mix friendship, you don't do your friends like this, okay? And at the same time, a lot of times you see Joe Budden and the people that's on his show talk about contracts and stuff like that, and their contracts all messed up. So who's running all this stuff? Like, who's literally in it? These lawyers and attorneys and everything else. Like, it just seemed like a big old mess. A big old mess. You know what I'm saying? And I think that, you know, I just don't see them coming back together. I know a lot of people is hoping that they can repair it, but the damage is done. I mean, when it gets down to the point where Joe Budden was openly disrespecting Rory, openly disrespecting Mal, basically trying to, you know, damage and defame their name and their character. On top of that, you got money that's missing, and allegedly your attorneys or whatever, whoever's the accountant or whoever you got running your company, not wanting to run the numbers, give them the information, just basically doing whatever they want to do, and all that other stuff in between with the attitude and the drama and the disrespect. There's no way that they're going to be able to repair this. And if they do, it'll be a miracle literally out of the sky. Like, seriously. Now, me personally, I feel like Joe Budden, you know, I've never really been like a fan per se of him as a person. Now, him on a podcast, he's cool. I like watching him. It's cool. Whatever. But him as a person, he seemed like a really effed up individual. That's just the vibe I get from Joe Budden. You know what I'm saying? And another thing, I feel like with Mal, you know, I feel like he could have did way better business. For most of you guys who don't know, he's actually the brother of one of the CEOs of Rockefeller, Biggs. So I'm just trying to understand, if he's seen his brother go through this whole thing with the split up of Jay-Z, Dame Dash, and everything else, how could he not see this whole thing with Joe Budden like going sour? How could he not sit with his brother and like really have a discussion? Because in the video, he basically talked about somehow he sat with his brothers, he talked to other people and stuff like that about, you know what I mean? How could he not specifically bring up this situation and be like, yo, do you think I'm getting a bad contract? Do you think I'm just like some type of a little bit of business advice? You know what I mean? Why sign up for something if you're not going to be getting nothing for it? He keep on saying it's not about the money. If it's not about the money, then I think y'all should be able to repair the show then. Which ain't going to happen. Because at the end of the day, it is about the money. Y'all don't want to work for free. Y'all seen Joe Budden getting multi-million-dollar deals with Patreon, getting money out of everywhere, and then include y'all in deals. That's about money. That's maybe like, oh, my friend just left me out. But you also going to be salty and even tight because he... financially, you gotta feed your family. Y'all got families and stuff to feed. Y'all can't just be out here just whimsically just working for free. Like, who does that? Like, honestly, I feel like Rory and Mal could possibly continue on and just do their own podcast together. They got enough fans. If they really wanna level up, they really wanna whatever and get the money that they deserve, why don't they just level up like they did with this podcast they did for an hour and turn it into Rory and Mal, the podcast, you know, and split the money 50-50, associate themselves with their own different brands and level up. You know what I'm saying? Level up. Don't let somebody, you know, completely ruin your career and the things that you like to do because of the mishandling and the mismanagement of you guys. Like, seriously. Because I believe that the Joe Budden podcast definitely made history, but Joe Budden, that's Joe Budden's fault. Every time something's going wrong, it's involving Joe Budden. You know what I mean? So that means that the likelihood of them two being successful is very high because they don't seem like guys that carry that much drama with them. They seem like they can be able to focus, but this time make sure your contract is right. Make sure the money is right. You know what I mean? And make sure you guys pay attention to people you hire as lawyers and attorneys, because even though we can't see the lawyers and the attorneys, it's a possibility that they were stealing from them or Joe Budden. And, you know, could have possibly been stealing from Joe Budden and the other two of them. You know what I mean? But I haven't heard anything about Joe Budden calling out his lawyers, and maybe legally he can't. But I just want to know what happened to the $400,000 that came up missing, okay? And I'm just trying to figure out how in the hell you have a podcast that big and people is eating crumbs. Like, I mean, I get it. Joe Budden got his pride and he didn't want to have sponsors and stuff on his show. But it's like, You need to add sponsors. When you're trying to build a team like that, you're trying to build an entire network. What network is a network that don't have sponsors? Like, everything that you see that is big has some type of sponsors or people that's associated with them that's helping them to build more revenue so they can feed and pay the people that's around them. And I feel like the biggest resolution to this before it really hit the fan was Joe Budden really sitting as a businessman and as a leader and figuring out additional ways for them to bring income. I get that the three of them was partners, but there should have been more business meetings versus them just going on air talking shit and going home. Because if they really did that, I feel like Joe Budden podcast will still be going strong today, but unfortunately that's not the case. All right, so I want to know what y'all think about the entire thing, and then we're going to also talk about, like I said, the Joe Budden podcast is going down in flames. Okay, you know, because now we got Joe Budden's former employee Olivia Dope coming out alleging that Joe Budden was sexually harassing her behind the scenes of her podcast, and on See the Thing Is. And basically saying that Joe Budden was hitting on her, making allegations that he was basically trying to insinuate them having sexual relations. She said that she never ever met him before, and that was her first time interacting with him, and he literally just was embarrassing her on camera. Now, I watched a couple of the clips. I've seen a couple of the clips. I actually put up a video on YouTube. Hopefully, it should be uploaded by the time this video comes out. But in the video, she basically goes down in great details about how Joe Budden made her feel completely uncomfortable, why she was working on there, and that's the reason why she decided to leave the Joe Budden Podcast Network. Now, this is terrible for business. Rewind back, right? Joe Budden went on his IG Live and basically was talking about somehow there's certain things that he don't want to put out because he don't want his reputation, his business hurt. Now, this is definitely hurting his business. Because when you have a female coming out saying that you basically sexually harassed her verbally, you was touching her the wrong way, and it's on video. Literally, I've seen the footage myself from her episode of See the Thing Is. You're going to make it so no females are going to want to work with him or work with you again, Joe Budden, doing stuff like this. Like, it's like there's certain behaviors that you have to have, certain humility, certain amount of self-control that you have to really be a leader and successfully run a brand. And you can't be out here trying to hop on and hump your employees, Joe Budden, and making them feel uncomfortable and intimidated when they're relying on you for income to help feed their families. Like, it's just like, me personally, I'm tired of Joe Budden and his shenanigans. I'm tired of it, and I don't know what this could lead to. I don't know if she's gonna sue him. She didn't say if she was gonna sue him or try to take this situation to court, but this whole thing is on tape. So I don't know what's going to be the next step to the Joe Budden Network. I don't know if people going to start disassociating themselves with him. Because right now with the Rory and Mal thing, everybody's like, oh, okay, cool, it's fine, it's fine. But now you're stepping in the realm of sexual harassment. And in the Me Too era, this is not a good look. This is not a good look. And it's unacceptable. You know, why can't a woman just be pretty and be able to work without her employer or her boss sexually harassing her? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And Joe Budden should be really ashamed of himself. He really should be ashamed of himself because, you know, he's going to ruin pretty much everything that he's trying to build. And honestly, Charlamagne the God was like literally getting his life on the Breakfast Club the other day when they was talking about this whole situation with Rory and Mal, and was making cackles and jokes, and then advertised his own associate or brand or whoever he's managing, whatever, and was just, you know, being shady because he literally was telling like Rory and Mal, why would you guys make a podcast and let him run the show and have his name on the podcast? It's just not smart. That wasn't smart. Like, that's the other thing. That's another point I forgot to mention. Why in the world would you guys make a podcast and y'all supposed to be partners and y'all gonna let Joe Budden take the name and literally have the whole podcast in his name? There's no way in hell. Now, this is a DJ J Erica podcast because it's DJ J Erica. But there's no way in hell I'm going to do a podcast with somebody and I'm telling them they're equal partners and I'm still going to call it the DJ J Erica podcast. If anything, I'll say, hey, you're a guest host on the DJ J Erica podcast show, but I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, yeah, we're a team and you're acting out everybody else a part of their brand, because people are just going to be looking for Joe Budden. So Charlamagne was right about that. And I know that Charlamagne is somewhere feeling like he just won a victory and probably doing a victory dance like, hey, I told you so. Hey, I told you so. Hey, I told you so. You know what about Joe Budden? But you know what I mean? It's just like, come on now. And now we got women coming out with sexual harassment claims. Now, Charlamagne ain't got much to say about that because Charlamagne already had his own sexual harassment claims. You know what I'm saying? That was ruined his career a couple of years back, okay? So I don't think he would have much room to talk about that at the least. But I hope that DJ Olivia, Dope, you know, be able to, you know, find the justice that she needs. She said in the video that she came out to do this because she has a daughter. And she told her daughter about what had happened, and she never actually said anything about it. But I guess seeing everything unfold with the Joe Budden podcast, this was a time for her to come out and say something and speak on it. It is never right for anyone to make anybody feel uncomfortable in the workplace environment. You know what I mean? And that's so hot. That's the other thing about with black folks when it comes to business, customer service, and the way that you treat employees. People always saying support black business, support black media, support black entities. But how do you treat your employees? Are you sexually harassing your employees? Why is all this ghetto stuff happening? You know what I mean? And don't get it twisted. I know in other fields that's owned by white people and everybody else, all different mixed of lives and races, that they deal with this type of thing with sexual harassment and everything else. But it's just like, it's not a good look for you to be the owner of a network as a black man and your female employees. You literally just started this show, and the first thing your female employee, that former employee, you had to say is, he was sexually harassing me. Yeah, he was sexually harassing me. Like, come on now. It's disgusting. It's really disgusting, y'all. I'm gonna try to get the video up there on YouTube, y'all. I don't know what's been going on. I need to really have a discussion with my internet provider, because my internet has been going extra slow, and it's like literally it's taking days for videos to upload that literally should take seconds. So but the video hopefully will be up tonight or whatever. By the time this video is up, y'all will see the entire statement from Olivia Dope discussing her issues with Joe Budden, and, you know, talk about this alleged sexual harassment claim. And also I have clips that I'm going to also upload on YouTube. So just subscribe to the channel, because a lot of the stuff that I have, I don't really want to put in certain YouTube videos because I don't want to deal with a copyright strike. I don't want to be dealing with that because I'm trying to build my brand. But if you guys want to hear more, you got to subscribe to the YouTube channel. I am DJ J Erica, and also DJ J Erica Mixes. Now, subscribe right now on YouTube if you're on Apple Podcasts and you're on Spotify and you want to understand further about the things that I'm talking about and see the footage about the things that I discuss. Y'all need to go ahead and subscribe, and also sign yourself up to the email list at djjericapod.com. I go in there and I blog often, putting out news and everything else. So that's a part of the empire and the brand. So I hope you guys support that as well. Another thing I want to talk about before I go, Ellen DeGeneres is ending her show after almost 20 years. I can't say that I'm shocked. She's basically saying that she felt like it's not a challenge for her anymore, so she's not doing her show anymore. And according to other executives, they're basically saying that they're kind of not shocked, you know, because allegedly the ratings were slumping. Along with that, who could forget all the stuff that happened last summer with a bunch of employees and ex-employees coming out basically saying that Ellen DeGeneres and her team was very racist, very sexist, you know, just very nasty people allegedly, you know what I mean? So, you know, it's interesting. I used to watch the Ellen DeGeneres show, but when I found out those allegations, I just couldn't support her anymore. And I just want to see how this is going to unfold after this. They're saying allegedly that Ellen DeGeneres is supposed to be doing an interview with Oprah Winfrey to discuss all the madness surrounding her brand and her show ending. So I want to hear about all of this, you guys. I'm not shocked. I'm really not shocked about it. You know what I mean? I was shocked at first to hear that she was a bad person, because I really liked her show. I thought she was funny and everything else, but now it's like, dang, Ellen, you ain't about that. And now, you know, it's been a year and the ratings definitely declined because people are hearing about all this stuff going on in her workplace. And she didn't seem really regretful like that when she came back on her show, like trying to make corny jokes about it. And there's nothing funny or cool or anything like that to, like, you know, I guess she was trying to remove the stench of possible racism or possible sexism or whatever else was going on in the workplace off her. But the damage was already done. So I guess she's leaving, okay? In the words of Justin Timberlake, okay? Cry me a river, okay? But yeah, outside of that, you guys, I'm going to wrap up my podcast. I know this is a little bit of a shorter podcast, but, you know, I wanted to just go through a list of different celebrity topics just to keep up to date with you guys. I'm going to be back next week with some more. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. And also, how could I forget? I made it on Apple Podcast charts this past week. Thank you guys for the support. This podcast is picking up. I did something that I did not expect. I got an email and I had checked the charts, and they had sent me an email letting me know that I made it on Apple Podcast charts for views this past week. So thank you guys for supporting my podcast. Everybody listening on Apple Podcast specifically, keep downloading, keep supporting. Thank you so much. I am so grateful. Everybody listening on Spotify and everywhere else, keep running those numbers up. Share this podcast to as many people, you know what I mean? Everybody that's part of J Airy Gang, I appreciate y'all supporting me. And I'm going to catch y'all on the next one. Thank you guys. I forgot. How did I forget to mention that? Like, that's literally the highlight of my week. The fact that I did that, that's historic for this show. I'm doing this without a network. I'm independent. I'm by myself, and it happened, you guys. And this is just a testimony. If you just keep working hard and building your brand, it can happen. And thank you all for the YouTube channel love as well, because the YouTube channel is starting to blow up, and I am so grateful for your support. Okay, so I'm gonna catch y'all on the next video. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe button. I'm gonna be back with another video really soon. And also, just, you know, I post more videos on YouTube that's like non-visual as well, because I try to stay in tune with the content and stuff that's going on. So just subscribe. Don't be afraid to subscribe. If you guys hear me running my mouth all the way to the end, whether you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, because you like my voice, you like it, you like what I'm talking about, you're enjoying the show, hit the subscribe button, okay? And I'm gonna catch y'all on the next one. Much